Well, good morning, everyone. I am Apostle Antonio Palmer, Senior Pastor of the Kingdom Celebration Center and President of the United Black Clergy of Anne Arundel County. First, I want to thank President Jackie Alsop and the NAACP, the Honorable Carl Snowden, and the Caucus of African American Leaders, Monica Lindsay, and Connecting the Dots, Reverend Marguerite Morris, and Community Actively Seeking Transparency, Darius Stanton, and the Black Caucus Foundation, Rodell Wright and Kyle Williams of Tunnel Vision, members of the statewide equity team, and members of our beloved community for joining me and the United Black Clergy today. And without haste, you built a fortress of love and unity around me, my wife, and the Kingdom Celebration Center family. Individuals and organizations like yours breathe life into our constantly threatened community. I want to especially thank members of the clergy who not only showed up today, but even on yesterday expressed genuine support with phone calls, text messages, words of encouragement, and prayers. Some, like Elder Charles James, who in fact literally stopped by my office to encourage me and to pray with me and make sure that my wife and I were going to be okay. That is what I call priceless brotherly love. We will hear from some of the clergy momentarily. But first, I want to thank our County Executive, Stuart Pittman, who immediately called me and expressed his intolerance towards hatred and his concern for me as an individual. Thank you, Stuart, for following your phone call with a public statement to defy the ill will of those in our society. Thank you also for not being oblivious to the fact that racism does exist in Anne Arundel County. However, we are committed to fighting to make this county the best place for all. You will hear from our county executive shortly. Let me thank my current councilman, Andrew Pruski, and all the elected officials and candidates running for office. Thank you for being here today. The public must know that some of you left voting locations to be with a hurting community. Some of you also left your jobs and meetings to hurry to this press conference, not for a vote, but because you love our community. I must also thank Anne Arundel County Western District Police Department for responding with professionalism and courtesy, being exceptional and thorough in your work. A special thanks to Chief Howard for your follow-up phone call to express your concern and to make sure that your officers were doing their job, and to share with me the availability of the crisis response team for any of my parishioners who may experience any signs of trauma from this act of hatred. I want to thank Pastor Jacqueline Duncan and the leading ladies of integrity also for making available certified belief therapists for anyone experiencing mental anguish and trauma. I can already testify to you that a member of our church called and said that they were scared to come back to church. This is an attack on the psyche, morale, and momentum of a church that is about doing good toward all men, a church that fights for justice, equality, and an equitable society. Make no mistake about it, no matter how small the graffiti, the trespasser left a huge, clear message of racism and hate. I'm quite sure that they desire to inflict harm on myself and members of the African American community. To use the word nigger in any setting is a slur of hatred with an undertone of brooding violence. The irreverent graffiti left on the doors of a black church in 2022 is unacceptable. And it is an indicator that our country has done a poor job protecting the black community and houses of worship. Yesterday was a sad day for me as a pastor and as a black man and as a citizen of this country that I loved and served in the military. I was sad to see such hatred targeted against people of goodwill. Yesterday, I was appalled that such hatred persists during a time when our country needs healing. But today, I didn't wake up sad. I woke up more determined to fight against evil with good. I woke up more determined to help deal with the food desert that our county faces. I woke up more determined to help teenage parents get their high school diploma and provide them with career readiness. I woke up more determined to help minimize homelessness in our county, especially among our displaced veterans. I woke up determined to help black-owned and minority-owned businesses to recover during the pandemic and find new opportunities to relaunch a sustainable business. And I also woke up determined to help spread the word to the marginalized community that your vote does matter, especially during this critical election year. I want to leave you with this thought. It's unusual for me to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. My wife is beside me, can tell you that. But I woke up this morning with this scripture ringing loudly in my ear. Love your enemies. Bless those that curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Kingdom Celebration Center and the United Black Clergy are more determined to love, to bless, to do good, and to pray. But most of all, we are more determined not to be silent.
My God.
God bless you. At this particular time, I want to, you guys will hear from some of my friends and colleagues in the faith, some of the clergy members that make up the United Black Clergy of Anne Arundel County. First, I have with me the Executive Director of the United Black Clergy, Apostle Larry Lee Thomas Sr.
It was great to hear those words, I will not be silent. But I need some help with the voices that are with me to shout silent no more. Silent no more. I need you to say it so that everyone can hear it loud and clear. Silent no more.
Silent no more.
It's because of those words that has activated us again to say something and to do something. And I am grateful again on the behalf of the United Black Clergy to say that there are certain acts that we just can't remain silent and we cannot tolerate it anymore. But today, with the collective, with all of us standing together, my other shout out will be, is there not a cause? And today, we have a reason to come together to begin to lift our voices, to continue to denounce such hatred that is still among us. But I just believe that, as one would say, I got a feeling that everything is going to be all right.
Thank you, Apostle. everything, we do believe everything will be all right. I'm going to say better than all right. Next, we're going to hear from our first Vice President and my dear son, Randy Curtis Jr.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Elder Randy Curtis, affectionately known by the religious community as well as the normal community as the rabbi. It's by the authority given to me by the Most High and the Honorable Apostle Antonio Palmer that I want to magnify my office as a rabbi and teach the cowards who wrote on our church doors and those who oppose racial progress, social justice, and the liberation of people.
Talk to us, sir.
That hate never wins.
Come on.
And though hate has been expressed right here on this sacred and holy ground,
My God.
we will not feed hatred with hatred.
Come on.
This is just a sign that we are doing the right thing. And for my generation, hate motivates us to do more. So we will continue to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, care for our community. We will amplify our voices to speak truth to power, to teach history the right way, and to challenge society to become a better place.
That's right.
I carry a very powerful book called the Bible. And in that book is a warning. The Most High himself declares, touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm. And as a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it is my responsibility to speak how great and powerful my God is. And God does not make scared preachers.
That's right. That's right.
My God.
I'm going to say it again. God does not make scared preachers.
That is right.
So thank you for the motivation. But let me let you know that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. And after 400 years plus, we are still here strong and mighty. And I leave you with this last scripture. Jeremiah 1:19 says to us that they shall fight against thee, but they shall not prevail against thee. God bless you.
God bless you, sir.
Thank you to the rabbi
Rabbi.
with that prophetic word, shall we say. Next, you're going to hear from our second Vice President, the Honorable Pastor and District Elder John D. Watts.
Well, grace and peace be unto you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Of course, my name is Pastor John Watts. I'm the senior pastor of Kingdom Life Church Apostolic, 504 Annabelle Avenue in the wonderful city of Baltimore, as well as I serve as the second vice president for the United Black Clergy of Anne Arundel County. I want to take this opportunity to thank God for allowing me to stand with so many esteemed brothers and sisters, but most of all, standing with my brother, Apostle Antonio Palmer, and his lovely wife. Apostle Palmer and Lady Barbara Palmer in the Kingdom Celebration Church, I don't want us to forget they have been a light and a beacon of hope for so many people in this community and the communities across the entire county and Baltimore City.
Yes.
I personally witnessed this man of God, along with his beautiful church family, pull together associations, organizations, politicians, police departments, and peoples of all faiths and communities during the pandemic and even after the pandemic. But I just want to share with you, it saddened me and that even after all of the great and mighty work that they did, that someone found the need to participate in some ignorant, barbaric, vicious, and cruel behavior against the people of the kingdom of God. So I just want to say this. I see, and I hope that you see racism and racist act as not just a behavior or a mindset, but it's a moral heart issue. See, we can't see stuff in your heart, and we can only track behaviors. But we know, as the people of God, that God sees the heart. And so we know that racism can hide behind a collar. It can hide behind a pulpit. It can hide in public offices. It can hide in decision making. I can't hear nobody. But it cannot hide from God. And we want you to know that we might not see you and we might not find you, but God already tracked who you were. And so I want to end with this, for the word of God tells us, having therefore obtained help from God. See, I'm not a politician, so I'm not running for office. I'm a sanctified preacher, so I know where my help comes from. Having therefore obtained help from God, we will not quit. We will not stand down. We will not be silent, but we will stand firm, and we will conclude with this. We will finish the course that God has set before us. And that course is freedom and liberty for all. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Watts, for that wonderful word of encouragement for the community at large. Lastly, from the United Black Clergy, we're going to hear from one of the former presidents of the United Black Clergy, the apostle himself, here in Hanover, Maryland, Apostle Abraham Shanklin.
It is a mixed bag of emotion to be here today. I heard somebody once said that we oftentimes celebrate and give recognition to those who do more harm than those who do good. But today is not that day. I'm thankful at this very moment we don't know who you are because we don't get to say your name. But we get to say the name of Apostle Antonio Palmer and Pastor Barbara Palmer and Kingdom Celebration. That's the name that we celebrate today. The word today is resilience, and resilience means the ability to bounce back from a troubling circumstance. You might have tried to stretch us with your act, but you need to know we're here today having bounced back. You heard the apostle said that one day he was down, but less than 24 hours he was back up again. That's resiliency, and that's what we represent here on this property. If you try to intimidate, then here's what we have for you as a message. Your intimidation has been turned inside out, and we will not be shaken.
My God, my God, my God, my God.
Thank you, Apostle. As you can see, that I am surrounded with a great cloud of witnesses. And these incredible men of God has uplifted my wife and I during this particular time. So I have nothing but to have strength and to move forward because of my brothers and sisters in the faith. Next, I want to call on the president of the NAACP. She's always been a great encouragement and a light to the community, and we have seen the community become better because of her presidency and her resilience to see things turn around for the good. Will you help me welcome the Honorable Jacqueline Alsop?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jacqueline Boone Alsop, and I serve as the president of the Anne Arundel County branch of the NAACP. I stand here united with other organizations and religious leaders outraged at the fact that someone would intentionally write the N-word on the front door of a sanctuary. Religious liberty is the first freedom listed in the First Amendment of the Constitution. A critical component of the religious liberty is the right of people of all faiths to participate fully in the benefits and privileges in society without facing discrimination. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is a federal civil rights legislation that prohibits discrimination in numerous settings, including employment, education, voting, and public accommodations. Title II prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religious, or national origin, and provides injunction relief for such violations. We are calling on for a federal investigation of this appalling act. We are calling on our Anne Arundel County Chief of Police, Chief Howard, to investigate and catch these perpetrators. If you have seen something, say something. We are also calling on the state's attorney, Ann Colitis, to prosecute these vandals to the fullest extent of the law. The NAACP will inherently fight against racism everywhere. Injustice done to one is injustice done to all. And this was an injustice act that was done to Bishop Antonio Palmer and his congregation. Thank you.
Thank you, President Alsop, for that powerful word of encouragement for our congregation and for the community at large. At this particular time, I want to call on, and I always say she's a member of our church. I got to let everybody know that. But she's done an incredible job, exceptional job, as she was placed in the office as a delegate here in our wonderful state of Maryland. I'm going to ask at this particular time if you will help me welcome Delegate Shanika Henson.
Go ahead, sis.
Thank you, Apostle. As Apostle said, this is my church home, so it is obviously personal to me what the vandals chose to do, where they chose to do it, and exactly the message that they chose to convey. My job is to uplift the elected officials that are here, that have come out to show their support to Kingdom Celebration Center and to all the members here in Odenton, Gambrills, and in the area who frequent the church for its many services. We have joining us today Councilman Andrew Pruski. We have joining us today candidate for Delegate District 33A, John Dove Jr. We have candidate for County Council District 4, Julie Hummer. We have Senator Pam Beidel. We have Chair of the Anne Arundel County Council, Lisa Rodvian. We have County Council Member District 1 and Senate candidate for District 32, Sarah Lacey. We have Chair of the Anne Arundel County Delegation and District 32 Delegate, Mike Rogers. We have Anne Arundel County Central Committee Member, District 31, Connor Curran. We have Vice Chair of the Anne Arundel County Central Committee, Janice Jones-Oden. We have Chair of the Anne Arundel County Central Committee, Deja Williams. We have candidate for Anne Arundel County Central Committee, District 32, Priscilla Monroe. We have Vice Chair of the House Appropriations Committee, my Vice Chair, and the Delegate for District 32, Mark Chang, joining us today. And if there are any other elected officials that I have failed to mention, I did. Senator Bidle and Mike Rogers, your friends would like you to be mentioned twice. And candidate of Reverend Marguerite Morris has joined us as well, and she did after I made the list. I apologize. It is important for everyone to know that in the Maryland General Assembly, we absolutely have a role and a responsibility in matters like this. Delegate Chang was the sponsor of legislation that clarified our state's hate crimes laws to make sure that racial effigies, epithets, and symbols were included in our hate crimes laws after we had an incident in Anne Arundel County where a noose was hung and we found out who the perpetrators were, but our laws were inadequate to address the crime. We also have included in our fiscal 22 and fiscal 23 year budgets funding to make sure that religious houses of worship have adequate security and protection. I think the event here today underscores the absolute need and importance to make sure that that funding remains available and to make sure that it's accessible for houses of worship across Anne Arundel County. We don't have to wait for an event to happen like we've seen happen in South Carolina and other houses of worship across the country. We don't have to wait for the perpetrator to make good on the violence that is in their heart, that was expressed in the words that they wrote on the door, for us to step up and provide adequate protection for the parishioners and the pastors that are here at this church. I think we're all very well versed in the culture of violence that exists just beneath the surface in the hearts of so many people. When the surface is cracked and we peer into the intentions that people have, we are aware that the need for public safety, the need for addressing that violence is something that we must continue to keep at the forefront of our budgets and the forefront of our policy making. That's why you have so many elected officials and candidates that have joined you today, because we understand that the highest responsibility and the highest duty that we have to the public is to keep them safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Henson, for that powerful, powerful message, and also sharing about the need for resources and where those resources are so that the houses of worship can take full advantage of that. We really appreciate, and that's why we have to make sure that we vote certain people into office, because those who mean good by the community will share with the community how we can get better and the resources available for that. So thank you again, Delegate Shanika Henson, for that very informative word that you shared with us. Not only is Delegate Henson a valuable asset to our community, but for the last 4 years, I've been privileged to work alongside or in partnership with our local government like never before.
That's right. That's right.
These 4 years have really, the government and the church has saw the need to work together to make sure that our community, especially during the pandemic, could be revived and restored. So I'm happy to bring to the microphone our county executive, Anne Arundel County Executive Stuart Pittman.
I'm not here to announce a new mask mandate. I have a very mild cold, so I don't want to spread it. But, and I have tested negative for COVID. But when I was notified yesterday morning that those words were scrolled on the door of Kingdom Celebration here in Odenton, I immediately called Apostle Palmer. And it hit me pretty hard because we've seen acts of hate in Anne Arundel County. We've seen far too many of them, and we have condemned them over and over and over. Close to here, we had Black Lives Matter sign, pride sign, torn down repeatedly at another church. We held a forum on hate bias incidents back in, I believe it was early 2020, right before COVID hit. And we changed our county slogan to the best place for all and put that on all of our signs because we wanted to send a message to anybody and everybody in this county, all 590,000 of us, that we are for all and we celebrate the diversity of this county. And we teach and we learn the history of this county so that when somebody even thinks about writing something like that on a house of worship, they understand the implications. It hit hard because, as has already been said, they used the N-word. They also added the words in jail after that. To a house of worship where the brave, brave leader told his life story to the Anne Arundel County Council. And I just want to say to whoever wrote that the leader of this church is a far, far better person than you are today. But the leader of this church has invited you to do what he did and get your life together.
My God.
So I am a politician running for office, as Pastor Watts mentioned that there might be a few here. But much more important than that is I oversee county government and all the departments of county government. And I can tell you that many departments of county government, particularly our Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families, and all of our health and human service agencies, have worked with Kingdom Celebration, especially during the pandemic, to feed people, to get kids to a place where they could actually do their schoolwork and their homework during the pandemic.
Yes, sir.
To take care of kids. Their child care center is amazing.
Yes, sir.
And they just keep on helping us serve people everywhere. So this is one of the greatest institutions in all of Anne Arundel County that they have chosen to attack. And I also oversee the police department. And I have with me here our amazing chief of police, Amal Awad. And I was not at all surprised to hear that they were here immediately. We have talked after some of these other instances about how seriously our police department takes these acts of hate. Whether they're hate crimes or just hate instances, however you describe them, they are reported in this county. Mm-hmm. And every single one of them goes up the chain of command so that the commander in that area knows about it, investigates it, and provides whatever services are necessary. So I would like to ask our chief of police to step up and say a few words. Amen. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Shorter than him.
Yeah, I am a little vertically challenged. I did have the opportunity to speak with Apostle Palmer last night, and we both expressed the pain and the trauma that incidents like this cause in our community, but we also spoke of the resilience, and there have been some powerful words here today that have been spoken about resilience and what we will not tolerate nor allow. Let me begin by being perfectly clear. There is no place for hate here in Anne Arundel County. Mm-hmm. None. Mm-hmm. Especially on the sacred grounds of a place of worship. Yes. Our sanctuary. My God. Our holy ground. My. We are sickened that we must stand before you today to announce that someone left a racist epithet on the doors of this sacred place of worship. Mm-hmm. The Kingdom Celebration Center, mm-hmm. say that and repeat it again and again. Mm-hmm. This is a house of worship. Right. Not here, The Anne Arundel County Police Department takes immediate action following any and all reported or observed incidents of racial, religious, ethnic, sexual orientation, disability, gender, identity, or homelessness, hatred, bias. As we do with all crimes, we denounce all forms of hatred. And we'll continue to expend our resources to the fullest extent to identify and apprehend the person or persons responsible for this disgusting, reprehensible act against these faithful ambassadors of our community, Apostle Palmer, First Lady Palmer, and this entire congregation. Our Homeland Security and Intelligence Unit is in regular contact with the FBI's Civil Rights Division, meeting with them multiple times a year and reaching out after every incident. The Civil Rights Division of Maryland's Office of the Attorney General highlighted the Anne Arundel County Police Department's utilization of restorative justice to address hate activity, specifically referencing our crisis intervention team, to which we have availed to you, sir, to intervene and help repair any harm caused. I ask that our community join us in expressing that we do not accept hatred in Anne Arundel County. And I ask that anyone who may have any information about this crime or any other hate crime to include the recent vandalisms at the Ark and Dove Presbyterian Church just down the road, contact us at our Western District Detectives Unit at 410-222-8760 or on our tip line at 410-222-4700. Tipsters can remain anonymous, and we do need your help. This vile act is not representative of the many good people who call Anne Arundel County home. And we will not be discouraged by your hatred, whoever you are. We are encouraged to not only identify and arrest you, but to continue the good works these humble caretakers of our community deliver every day. We remain committed to ensuring that Anne Arundel County is the best place for all. Thank you.
We want to thank our chief one more time for her resilience in making sure that we are taken care of as much as we're taking care of the community. So thank you, Chief Alwood. And I heard you say our congregation. I thought maybe you were going to come and join Kingdom Celebrations. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Lastly, and let me say this, and we have scores of people who I know can come and embrace this platform and speak greatly of advocacy and express your disdain for hatred and hate crimes alike, racism and so forth. But because of the sake of time, I have one more person that I want to make sure that come, but I want to just say thank you so much to everyone for coming and supporting Kingdom Celebration Center, the United Black Clergy, my wife and I. So we say thank you with a million thanks. But at this particular time, I want to bring up, I always call him my mentor, even when he doesn't know it, but to show me how to, and to motivate me and to inspire me to get outside of the four walls of the church, because there's a community that needs the service of the church. And because of that, and no matter what manner of service, how that looks, what aspect it is, because I've had somebody like the Honorable Carl Snowden that can encourage me of such and motivate me of such, I believe it is well deserving to have him come and to conclude this press conference with some great thoughtful words. Will you help me welcome our convener of the Caucus of African American Leaders, the Honorable Carl Snowden.
let me make sure that we all understand what time it is in America. For members of the media, you've wrote this story many times before, both national media and local. It's a story that's filled with pain, and it's a story that's historic. Many in this audience will remember the murder of Emmett Till, 13 years old, murdered. One might pause in 1955, but we cannot. This year, we saw an African American in a place called Ohio get shot 60 times. 60 times. There was something that happened in that moment of history with Emmett Till that changed the course of America and the world. A woman who had lost her only son had been told by the mortician, "They've beaten your son so badly, his face is unrecognizable. Have," they recommended to her, "a closed casket funeral." And on that day, she held her closed casket funeral. And as ministers of the gospel was lifting her deceased son up, as they were about to talk to her about his journey, Mrs. Till, overcome with grief, ran to that casket and opened the casket up. And she said, "I want the world to see what they did to my baby." And it was that casket getting opened up that changed the direction of the nation. Who can forget that only 2 years ago, a man named George Floyd, we watched somebody put their foot on his neck. The last 2 words he said was, "Mama," and "I can't breathe." Brings us in this context today. We've had an incident here in Arundel. It is not the first incident, nor will it be the last. The question becomes, what do we as a community do? How do we respond? What do we do? This weekend, along with Apostle Palmer and many community leaders, we met at Morgan State University and looked at the crisis that's going on in the Black community. And it was decided that we collectively have to come up with some solutions that we see that need to be done. And I'm going to announce one of those particular projects that we've done. It's never been done nationally before. I want people to get the context of it, the importance of it. Many people who saw or read what happened to Apostle Palmer's church either read it on social media or heard clips of it on the media. Many woke up and didn't even know that it had occurred. There are racial incidents that occur in America and in Maryland on a regular basis. And most people have no idea it occurred. We think that these are just isolated incidents. But thank be to God that this weekend we've come up with a project that we want to launch. It's called the Emmett Till Project, but let me explain what it is and why we've chosen that name in this process. The Emmett Till Project is a project that's designed to make sure that the leadership, when something like this happens, are instantly notified, that the leadership are able to come together rapidly and quickly to respond. Most of you are familiar with a concept called Amber Alert, which is when a child has been kidnapped or abducted. You have Amber Alert. Well, we're going to create, through the technology that we have with us, Emmett Till Alert. We will be able to tell people across the state of Maryland, and we hope to be emulated through the nation, that when a racial incident occurs, no matter where it takes place at, leadership, African American leaders, whether they're public officials, whether they're business people, whether they're clergy, whether they're civil rights activists, will all be notified at the same time. We will be able to know that, for example, in Wycomico County, a young student went into, alleged to go into a school where he threatened to kill all the black kids in Wycomico County. Most Annapolitans, most people living in the county have not heard that story, although it was reported. There are stories like that in Montgomery County, where there have been properties that has been desecrated, and African Americans here in this county are not aware of it. So through this Emmett Till alert, when a racial incident of any kind occurs, we will be able to communicate to every single elected official who is African American, as well as the leadership of the African American community. Now, why is this important? It's important because we have to have a rapid response. When incidents like this take place, we must show up. We must be able to bring our resources. That's point one. I want to make that very clear. Point two, we have decided that it's necessary, given what's going on in the nation, for us to begin to develop our own security. We have to be aware of events, make sure that we put in place what we believe will be those kinds of protections that will ensure that men and women who are going to worship at a church, men and women who are going to go grocery shopping, men and women who want to go to a movie theater are not slaughtered because of some bigot. We have to have a response. While we appreciate what the government can do, we know there are things that only we can do for ourselves. Lastly, I end with this. It's very important. Apostle Palmer and Pastor Palmer, Barbara Palmer, they've given a magnificent contribution to this community. Yeah. What they've done over and over again is demonstrate what a church should be, what a church must be. So this coming Sunday, we're going to ask all the elected officials and candidates that's in this audience with us today. We're going to ask members of the community from various civil rights organizations to join us this coming Sunday at this church, where we'll come in form of solidarity, hundreds of us showing up to express our support by being present. Martin Luther King Jr. once said the following, and I close with this. Dr. King said there's a lot of ways that people can express their love for one another. But he said, if you really want to know where people stand, look for them during conflict and controversy. People who are with you when everything's going fine are not the way you measure your friends. Measure your friends during conflict and controversy. So this coming Sunday at 11 a.m., we're calling on our friends across racial lines, our friends across political lines, our friends to come together at this church. We hope to have with us elected officials, candidates for public office, law enforcement officials, preachers, all together saying one thing, that those who wrote those despicable words, niggas in jail, do not represent Anne Arundel County at its best. They represent Anne Arundel County at its worst. And I believe that the vast majority of people that are standing here want to fight to make America better and not bitter. Thank you so very much for your attention.
We want to, as we conclude, we want to thank everyone again for coming out, and we also want to thank everyone who graced the platform here to send the clear message out that we are against hatred and racism, but we are definitely all about love, strength, and solidarity. As the old in the civil rights movement, there was a song, "We Shall Overcome." We're not going to sing it right now, but I just wanted to put that out. We shall, together, we shall overcome.